Hey guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and today we are taking a look at my LP640. Now, you may not have been paying attention to my Instagram, I Create Millionaires, but I have recently acquired what I consider to be probably one of the rarest LP640s in the world, and I'm about to tell you why. So this is a 2009, which is the last year to produce the LP640 before they went to the LP670, which is the SV in 2010. This is what I consider to be the best of what the LP640 lineup was. A 2009 with all updated Bosch parts, but this particular car is also balloon white, a color they introduced in 2009, which is a beautiful, beautiful color. So not only it's rare, but it's beautiful. But there is something that makes this car even rarer. And if we take a look here at the interior, it isn't just that it has cross quilting, it isn't that it has carbon fiber everywhere, and it really has nothing to do even with a carbon fiber engine bay. What it has to do with is that this is a 2009 with just 300 miles. And so this isn't a joke, it has 300 original miles, every service record from the very beginning, and it does not have any flaws. It does not have any dashboard pulling, sticky buttons, and it is literally a brand new car. So where did we find this? Well, we actually found this at Lamborghini Naples on consignment. It was listed for $550,000, which is quite a bit for the LP640 market. But this particular car with 300 miles was bought significantly below that when they had a price reduction, and I immediately called on it. And apparently I wasn't the only one waiting, because many people noticed it, but very few had the balls to actually do it. So I called, bought the car, and decided to leave it here because, in my opinion, this is the most iconic Lamborghini in history. So much more iconic than the Countach even, because this was the poster car that I had on my wall when I was a kid. It wasn't a Countach, it was this specifically. I'm not that old for you fuckers that think I am, but this was really an iconic car to put away in what I consider to be a very cool 90s 2000 collection. So I bought this car in the hopes of actually making money, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this video is to teach you a little something about exotic car values specifically, and how we look at things as to why I believe this car will go up in value, and some of the concepts we teach here at Exotic Car Hacks, which I think are very relevant to what you guys are doing today. So I'm gonna leave this car here for a second. I'm gonna invite you here on my wall here for just one moment, because I wanna show you something that perhaps you haven't been paying attention to. So this is the wall where we look at numbers, and I wanna show you something very, very specific in stacks. So stacks are what I call at Exotic Car Hacks a concept when we look at, for example, how values stack up on top of each other. We look at generational cars. To give you an example, I would say that if I had a 458 value span, right, from high to low, whatever, under that I would have a 430, right, and under that I would have a 360. This is basically what each car, these are all F cars for Ferrari, and they come out generationally one after the other. So based on where values go for 360s, then 430s stack on top, and then 458s on top of that, and it keeps going, right? This stack, for example, is different from what we consider to be the 812 Superfast, the F12, right? And then even further down the 599, and then further down to 575. So these are basically stacks that occur in the car space of car values, and this is one of the strategies we use at Exotic Car Hacks. I'm giving you a complete freebie here on understanding how values are going to span out in the future. So what we look for in inconsistencies when we're looking at pricing of what goes up, what goes down, and this is why I tell you this is so much more than like your next guy telling you to buy low and sell high, etc. So there's a lot that goes into this, but the way we look at this data and analytics since my early days in 2008 is to understand these stacks in a very different way. So what we look at, for example, is the distance, and I'm going to give you this as an example on the Murcielago, so you can kind of understand it. So the first thing we look at is the stack as it pertains to specifically the specific cars based on years. So what we look at, for example, is we will say, look, we went from the Murcielago, we went to the Aventador, and that's basically now we're going to Revuelto, right? So the way we look at it is we say Aventador is in the middle, we say Revuelto just came out and it's here, and then we'll say Murcielago is here, right? So what we'll look at is the distance between pricing here. So we'll say if an average Aventador has a price, including the SVJs, of like 500K on average, Revueltos are averaging right now 650, and then we're looking at Murciélagos going, for example, for 400 plus. Now we're looking at that, and we can learn one quick thing here is that Murciélagos, in context, the sticker and averages are significantly higher because the margin here is very small and the margin here is much bigger. So what we look at here in order to understand that is that Murciélagos are creeping up on Aventador, so there's only one way for them to move. Either it's up or these have to move back down. So are they overvalued or are these undervalued? That's how we kind of gauge that stack, but there's more to this. So that's how we look at models as a whole, right? But then what about internally in the model range? We look at what we call the SV670, right? At the highest peak of it. Then we look at the 640, then we look at the Mercy, right? And then we can also look at base things such as gated Mercies are at the same price as LP640s, right? Like they're here, but gated LP640s are even higher than an SV670. So we look at all this data range between here, 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 etc., and kind of look at what is the most undervalued versus overvalued car. So we know that the 640 was basically a 250K car, and the 670 was basically a 900K car over the last few years. So we look at this gap and we look at the Mercy gated cars coming up in the 500s. So we look at this and we go, this is the underdog of the line, which is the 640. And then what are the ranges there from 400 for the E-gear cars all the way up down to 250 for the crappier cars. So we take a look at that and we go, how do we use that to basically tell us between 900 and 400, are the 670s coming down or are the Mercys going up? Or are the LP640s going up? If we know Mercys are also pushing 640s up, it's going into 670s, and try to follow this. I know it's like a little bit complex math for most people, but this is basically pushing 640s up. 670s, even if they have some weakness, will come down to 800K range. That means that basically you still have a 400K gap to take on. So this, between the Murciélago line, the LP640 E-gear was the underdog that I believe is going to be going up over the next 2 years. That is actually why, if you watch my investment video done before this, you will actually notice that the 640 is on there for this very specific reason, because I'm looking at this stack and trying to explain it. So this is basically how we come up with the conclusion that the LP640 E-gear is specifically going up. And the reason why I specifically bought this car is because this would be the most prime example of a car that could go up in value because of its low mileage, the right model year, the right color, the right options, and ultimately the most marketable aspect of owning such a specific car as an investment grade car. So this is exactly what we teach at Exotic Car Hacks. If you want to learn more about this, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let me know what you think of my latest acquisition from an investment standpoint. And of course, if you don't know much about car hacking or want to join Exotic Car Hacks, you can do so in the description below this video. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys next time on Exotic Car Hacks.